Hello and welcome to everyone watching worldwide. My name is Carl Azus. We are covering a range of topics today, from early U.S. voting to a virtual tour of a Middle Eastern city. But we're starting with the status of coronavirus, both in America and abroad. It's still out there, it's still spreading. But the number of cases and deaths blamed on the disease are different from nation to nation and community to community. Globally, Johns Hopkins University has recorded 37.6 million positive coronavirus tests since the pandemic began. The U.S. has seen more than 7.7 million. Globally, scientists have blamed more than 1 million deaths on coronavirus. America has accounted for roughly 215,000 of those fatalities. Overall estimates that came out this summer indicate that COVID-19 is deadlier than the flu. Roughly 0.1% of people who catch influenza are estimated to die from it. Roughly 0.6% of people who catch coronavirus are estimated to die from it. Over the past week, the number of coronavirus cases has increased in 31 U.S. states. The remaining 19 are either holding steady or seeing decreasing case numbers, according to Johns Hopkins. And worldwide, it's a mixed bag as well, with very different approaches from nation to nation. There are countries like Australia and New Zealand, which imposed strict lockdowns during coronavirus outbreaks and saw new case numbers come under control. But there's also Sweden. It made the controversial decision not to have the lockdowns of other countries, but it's also seen a relatively low number of new cases in recent months, though they have been increasing lately. Numbers in several other parts of Europe appear to be on the rise.
I'm Nick Robertson in London, where the British Prime Minister is expected to announce a simplification of COVID regulations to tackle the growing number of infections across the country. He's expected to announce a 3-tier system: medium, high, and very high. We know that the city of Liverpool is expected to be in the very high category. They are expecting their bars, gyms, and casinos to be shut down, but a lot of other details still to be worked out.
I'm Fred Plankin in Moscow as new coronavirus infections here in Russia remain at a very high level. Russian authorities recorded around 13,600 new infections in the span of 24 hours. And one of the main epicenters remains the capital here in Moscow, with about 4,400 new infections in a single day. The Russian authorities are urging people to abide by the anti-pandemic measures, but also say if the high numbers persist, they might have to put additional measures in place.
I'm Scott McLean in Berlin, where nearly every large city in this country is now considered a coronavirus hotspot. Stuttgart has even called in the military for help. Berlin, though, is seeing the highest rates of infection this past weekend. The health minister, though, is warning for the potential of uncontrolled spread of the virus, fueled by weddings and large religious gatherings. Later today, German officials are expected to announce a new testing strategy and quarantine rules.
I'm Melissa Bell in Paris. After a week of record rises here in France in terms of the number of new coronavirus cases, 2 extra cities on top of the 4 that entered the maximum alert category on Saturday will do so from tomorrow. They join then Paris and Marseille with all the fresh restrictions that will bring. And yet, for now, the national positivity rate continues to climb, 11.5% this Monday. That's up from just 4.3% on September 1st. And for the Greater Paris region, it has now reached 17%.
10-second trivia. Who was a candidate in the U.S. election that saw the highest percentage of voter turnout? Rutherford B. Hayes, Abraham Lincoln, Franklin D. Roosevelt, or John F. Kennedy? Though 50 to 60% of voters have turned out for modern elections, 82% turned out for Hayes' victory in 1876. More than 128 million votes were cast in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, and so far this year, more than 9 million votes have been cast. But Carl, you might be saying, Election Day isn't until November 3rd. Right, but 38 U.S. states, plus the District of Columbia, allow early voting. There's also been a surge in mail-in voting because of concerns about the coronavirus pandemic. So according to the U.S. Election Project, millions have voted, and millions more will vote before October is over. What's interesting, according to one analyst, is that the votes that have been cast are based on what the political environment is right now, how people currently feel about Republican incumbent President Donald Trump, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, or any other candidate they want to see in office. So if those early voters change their minds before November 3rd, they can't change their votes. Those have already been cast. Except for Tuesdays, the Louvre Museum in Paris is open again from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Visitor numbers are limited and they have to wear masks. But for Americans, it's a moot point. Most aren't allowed to travel from the U.S. to France right now. In southern Asia, the Taj Mahal reopened to visitors last month. Only 5,000 people are allowed to go there per day when it was 70,000 before the coronavirus pandemic hit. But for Americans, it's a moot point. The State Department says don't travel to India. Even as tourist venues reopen, there's a lot less travel going on in the world because of COVID-19. But there is a way to see some venues and cities without leaving your living room.
As COVID-19 continues to confine us inside, more institutions around the world are opening their online doors than ever before. All you need is an internet connection
Jenny, let me plug this computer in quick.
and a power cord.
1% away from knocking you off.
That's Michael Essie, who's helped launch one of the world's largest virtual city tours.
Okay, so it's Dubai 360 is a 360 and virtual reality hub designed to create a virtual 360 tour of the whole of Dubai.
From the Burj Khalifa to the lounge inside, the Dubai Marina to Legoland, Michael's company has digitized dozens of Dubai landmarks, including malls, museums, and most everything in between. But how do these virtual tours compare to the real thing?
If you're virtually walking yourself through a museum, of course, being there, sights and sounds and the smells of a place, we can't replicate that. But if you wanted to see a specific exhibit in a museum, whether you're there or whether you're online, the information and the look and feel is exactly the same.
He says filming these experiences isn't all that difficult.
I imagine it's much more labor intensive than just getting your digital camera and uploading it online.
No, and the process itself is not too difficult. 360 is not a complicated thing. It's anyone can go and buy a 360 camera and it's cheap.
But the challenge comes in the edit suite.
You take all those photos back and now you have to stitch it into what you see as a panoramic photo, which is the 360 photo that you can look around. And then you need to stitch all of those panoramics together into a walkthrough. An area could take us a week to film, but it could take us 6 weeks to stitch together.
Dubai 360 launched long before coronavirus became a common term. But like many virtual experiences, website hosts say that more visitors have been logging on during the pandemic than ever before. And the International Council of Museums is seizing this moment by encouraging people to use online exhibits as a relaxing way to spend your extra indoor time.
Binge watching series, it's going to melt your brain. You've got to stimulate yourself. Go look at a museum, educate yourself and better yourself. Get out there, explore the world more. There are other options to explore the world. And if you can't leave your house, 360 is the way to do it.
For 10 out of 10, we have some sad-ish news for you today. Your chance to own your very own fossilized T-Rex has come and gone. Last month, we told you how Stan, a dino skeleton named for the paleontologist who discovered it, was going up for auction. Christie's auction house estimated it would fetch $6 million, but in true T-Rex fashion, Stan ate that for breakfast. The winning bidder paid $31.8 million. It's the most money any fossil has ever fetched at auction, and the skeleton isn't even complete. Though it took a complete fortune to facilitate such a Giganosaurus sale and Triceratops the record, maybe someone's all velocirapted up in this idea of collecting Allosaurs he can for his own Jurassic Park. I'm Carl Azus, T-wrecking our show with dinosaur puns. We hope you'll come back tomorrow. Shout out to the Anglo-American School of Moscow, watching from the Russian capital, and thank you for your comment at youtube.com/CNN.